Yeah, brown bacon. Hi, Sojit. Welcome to the groundbreaking.
Hi Deepak, really excited.
Yeah. Okay. If you could start with tell us something about yourself, a little about your journey, what the kind of work you're doing.
So how my career started is a lot of credit given to my parents. So I from the childhood, if you are good at maybe art and craft, you are considered to be a creative guy, right? So
Yeah.
my parents really identified that. Um, and at that time, a design profession was not that much exposed to the world, and people had very limited knowledge of how the career path looks like. My parents were um, really supportive enough to tell me that okay, you're doing this part very well. How about you pursue your career in this? I was the person. In fact, I was the person who told them, "Hey, let me go into do something safe." But they always pushed me that you have a creative side. You start your journey with maybe something that you would love to explore and you are good at. So yes, a lot of credit goes to them. And after that, I started my um, I would not call it design journey, but I got into a fine arts college because my drawing skills and my art and craft was really good and started there. But without any uh, goal. So when you start with a at that time, people were very limited to understand what design career would pan into, how things would go, where would you work, will you become an artist, will you become a painter, sculptor. So I also started with a very open-minded start and forum where I started with foundation, started with drawing skills and all that. And I was really very strong at my visual skills. So that really helped me to gain confidence. And did my 4 years of fine arts and applied arts. And then I really, after a point of time, understood that this is not enough for me to get into a design professionalism. And it was not enough for me to say that, okay, I'm doing design. It was not design. I had good visual skill, but I understood that I need some sense to understand problem solving processes, how my visual skill could be applied to bring out solutions. So I identified and then I figured out uh, my post graduation and I joined MIT Pune. And there it was, uh, I spent a very, I would say, quality time understanding design, learning design. The entire ecosystem was so much um, supportive to to nurture the way that I came out in 2 years. Where then I went to MIT Pune and I started learning design because my visual strengths were always there. It is just that I had to channelize my visual strength into design thinking. And I learned design thinking processes. The ecosystem was very supportive enough to teach me. The peer learning was happening really great. The mentors really identified that, okay, you are good at this part. Um, you should definitely focus on your processes and how you can think consumer backward, how you can think in a more user-led design solution way than being an artist. All right. So I understood the difference between being an artist and being a designer there. And after 2 years, then my of my post graduation, I was pretty much aligned with how I want to lead my career and professional life because I had some good strengths and I still had to develop the design side a bit more. So I joined Leaf Design then. So Sumit Patel and Sandeep Bozade was my mentor over there, and they were really doing great work, specifically in the branding side. So I really wanted to work with them, and I got a chance to work with them. And the best part was that it was a boutique company, so very few people. and I got to learn a lot and apply my learning. Whatever project that used to come, they used to give enough of say opportunities, responsibility for me to handle stuff on an individual level, that too at a very young age. That really helped me nurture uh, the journalist attitude that I have today towards design, because I used to do everything. So be it say working as a IC, handling clients, doing strategy, writing copy for a lot of things, developing few website blogs and stuff. So so there I got to learn and do a lot, which really helped me to define and really understand and learn. Education one was one part, but the learning that I had, at least for, I think I worked with them for 7 years, and the learning that I have had with them was really priceless. And it was a quality learning that I had that I could apply till today, right? The attitude, the mindset that they have nurtured uh, inside me really helped me come this far. Um, did a lot of projects with them, did a lot of brands, and after 7 8 years, then I decided, let's do something different, because I've worked on a lot of industries with a lot of clients. One thing that I was really looking up to after that point of time is how I can grow from here and how I can. So we used to build brand and give it to our clients, and that was the stage that I could see through. And post that, what happens with that brand was undiscovered, and I felt that side where I deliver a brand, I create a brand, and then what happens with that, how far it travels, what are the learnings that I can have once I launch the brand, and then if I stay with the brand, um, then how can I improve with the solution that I've provided? How can I rectify the things that could be better, or see through the journey of a brand? And then I decided, okay, let me. I have done enough. I have done many projects to satisfy my creative instinct. Now let me get into a brand where I can live and sleep on one brand, and uh, it is something that I can live and breathe and realize even with a closed eyes that what the brand requires, how the journey should be. What do I do tomorrow to make this brand better? Right. I wanted to really live a brand. And then Lenskart happened. So I joined Lenskart in, I think, 2017 or 18. I think somewhere in 2019. And from there, again, I joined them as a solo person, solo leader. I had no team there. Um, and I had a very blurry vision that what I want to do here. I have heard a lot of people going into companies and firms and then establish their own design team and really outshine, and make them grow, grow as a big design team, in-house design team. And I had that vision, but I was not that clear whether I'll be able to do it or not, because I come from an agency setup, and then for me to build that, I was a little skeptical about. But once I got into Lenskart, I think I got few great mentors there as well. So I have been very lucky to get great mentors. So when I moved to Lenskart, I had Achal Jain and there was Saad Ahmed. They come from Future Brand, so they used to be pioneer in Future Brand. So they taught
That's a
me.
huge group.
Yes, yes. So they also started off their future brand journey with Lenskart, and they were with them for 10 years, but not working in house. So after a point of time, Piyush identified, okay, why you both of you guys don't join? Why don't you join me and be this side of the brand and then build something? So, and they moved to Lenskart and they called me, and I learned a lot from them. They taught me how to navigate through an in-house design setup.
So you were closely working with Piyush as well?
Later on, initially, I was working with Achal and Saad quite a lot, and they used to work closely with Piyush. Slowly, because I have built built an empire there at design empire at Lenskart, so I started working very closely with Piyush also. I think after 6 months, 1 year, I started building good association with Piyush, and so he used to trust me. He backed me a lot. Um, he backed the entire design team a lot, and that's why we could do so much. So when I joined Lenskart, I started as a solo person, clueless what kind of briefs that I would be working on, because see what happens when you move from a agency setup to a in-house design setup. You are always unsure about being excited with the kind of work that you will be doing, because in the agency side you do multiple briefs at one point of time. You are working with so many industries, learning new things every day. But in an in-house setup, you never know, like whether you might get
Yeah.
some chances to explore something new, but most of the time people have this perception and notion that you will be doing same thing day in day out. I also had the same thing, but really, Achal and Saad helped me to push me to do whatever I wanted to do and however I wanted to establish my team. They helped me. I ideate the entire setup and the structure of the team, how it should be,
Yeah.
how what are the steps that we should take. So it was not day one or day 10 that we established and we hired everyone. So
Yeah.
it was a such step-by-step process. By the time I concluded Lenskart, we were about a team. We were a team about say 25, 30 people globally.
Yeah. And I think these years are probably the transformational years for Lenskart as well, right?
Yes.
I think because I think in these years, this Lenskart was also blowing up in many ways. They were opening stores like crazy.
Yes.
Um, how difficult was it for you to kind of make it more scalable, or was it like, or it just happened organically?
So when I joined Lenskart, to be very honest, it was the initial day where the Lenskart boom was happening, and it was yet to start. And I used to show my portfolio to people to get them on board, because by then nobody believed that we'll do such crazy stuff. Like, as in, go on and check out our work, the kind of work that our design team was doing.
That sounds insane. Like today, it'll be opposite.
Yes. So I used to really pitch people, okay, see, you want to join Lenskart? Okay, if you have any doubt, I'll show you my portfolio. You are joining me. And I promise you that I'll grow you along with me in my journey that I have to foresee with Lenskart. So I used to show my portfolio. I used to tell people, okay, join me. Okay, if you don't want to join me, because it was really hard to get great talent from the industry, from the big colleges. The cream talent would always refuse to come to you.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. And the entire thing slowly changed so much that my entire LinkedIn was spammed with people asking me, "Ki, hey, we want to join you. We want to join Lenskart." So that is a transition that I've seen from point zero to point 10 in those 3.5, 4 years. So it was really a great journey that I had. From point zero to 10 was a great learning and transition, I would say. And yes, Lenskart was also booming that time. Shark Tank was yet to happen when I joined.
So okay. So I mean, Piyush went to Shark Tank much later. I'm told. I think not a lot of people talk about that, but Piyush being on Shark Tank India also gave a lot of PR to Lenskart, right?
A lot of exposure. People started associating with the founder, right? And the kind of founder that he is. I think people would love to join him, right? And that really helped me in a way to define the team also and to get good talent. It really helped.
Even in later years, I've seen that a lot of ads, videos with Piyush in it.
Yes.
So it became like a founder-led
Correct.
brand of sorts, right?
So yes, after Shark Tank, he's a person who would shy away from being the forefront and the face of brand in many occasions. But the brand demanded that because he came across such a great leader at Shark Tank, one of the favorites. So I think the brand really demanded that and wanted to leverage that. And it happened in a very right way. He really lifted up the whole brand. He became the face of the brand. We did a lot of campaign ads with him, Karan Johar, Piyush, Karan versus Piyush. Then we also did a lot of campaign where he was just him was a part of it. So yes, it really helped to elevate the overall brand. But it's just India, right? If you see him as an entrepreneur, he also expanded globally. Like we are there in UAE, Southeast Asia. We are doing great, and that time we acquired Ondays, which is one of the biggest player in Southeast Asia. So um, sorry, Japan. So as not just India, he also did a lot of work to
Yeah.
grow global.
What about I think they recently rebranded. Were you also a part of that?
Yes, so not recent. So when I joined in, that time, and Achal's main purpose of hiring me was that he wanted to have one person who would really anchor their rebranding process. So we partnered with the Design Studio London, and they helped us doing the entire brand transformation and redesigning of the brand. So we had that green, yellow, infinite icon. I think you remember
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
right? So that was not the standard that we would go out in the world and be called as a global leaders, right? So we had to change. We had to redo our brand at that time. I think 5-6 years back. So Achal's main perspective and agenda for me to be there was one of the core reason was to take care of the entire brand custodianship and uh, take that exercise up with Design Studio London and make sure the entire system is downloaded well into Lenskart, and parallelly start growing a design team who would handle that. And that is exactly what we followed. So I joined, we started this exercise with Design Studio. We were parallelly building our team. So 4-5 people who I identified who can really take care of the brand very well. So people who are doing good branding work, has great sense of processes, structure, or system design. So I identified few people. Those included communication design people also, writers, and of course designers. And so I started building small team who would handle this part whenever. So it took about 6 months for Design Studio to conclude that exercise. And from there we took it up and we started using that system across Lenskart. And so what happened is earlier before this whole brand refresh, there used to be a lot of subjective feedback, input, back and forth, because you don't have a defined system, right? Brand system. And people would come and say, this is looking nice, this is not looking nice. So to cut down these sort of subjective input coming from non-design professional, you always in a brand you need to have a system where everybody signs off and say, okay, this is my brand.
Yeah.
And then nobody has a call that, okay, this is not looking right, this is looking right. All those subjectivities are cut. So that is what we had done. So after that exercise, nobody had any say in that this looks like Lenskart or this is not fun, this is not looking good, and this is not looking that. So it really helped us scale faster, doing things faster, avoid and eliminate all those subjective feedback, input, back and forth, started running as an engine. And we started doing a lot of other stuff and started hiring more. We started hiring other skill set, motion graphics, 3D, um, packaging designer, retail
Yeah.
people.
Well, I saw like remind me of John Jacobs. Yeah,
John
I
Jacobs.
love 3D stuff they did, right?
Yeah. So John Jacobs is something that I was not taking care of wholly.
For the longest time I thought it was a part of
It is. So John Jacobs is a brand by Lenskart.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
mostly all the brands that you see at Lenskart is Lenskart own labeled brand. So it's a household brand. So we have Vincent Che, John Jacobs, we have Lenskart Boost, then many more. So there are a lot of brands that Lenskart introduced as a household brand, all are targeted to specific needs. So some are for performance, some are for style, some are premium line is John Jacobs. And yes, I had we used to work on John Jacobs, but from a brand lens. But most of our 3D work or any campaign that you would see is a lot to do with Vincent Chase, Boost, and collaborations such as Harry Potter, Superman, all those stuff used to be done by our team. But yes, once the brand system and things were in place, it was very easy for me to also deep dive into other areas.
Yeah,
So I started doing that.
And also, like, you could once it's a little scalable, you can involve more agency and like put it on an angel.
Yes, but agency model is something that I don't support. I would not say I don't trust, but I really function in a setup where the control is with me. So that's why uh, about 4 years back I realized the things will shift. Because earlier days what used to happen is all the good talent would go and join good agencies because they would get good mentorship there. They would get to work on multiple projects, multiple industries. So it used to be very hard for the companies to hire talent in house, right? That the way that I told you earlier. Also, I used to show my portfolio and get people in. So that was the challenge. I think 3 years back, because the in-house talent was not that great, and people used to outsource work to agencies who were doing good work because the talent was sitting there. Now it has completely flipped. People are now joining. Good people are now joining brand. And agency side, yes, definitely there are pioneers. There are really great professionals who can turn around great things. But the company side also started getting a lot of good talent now. So they are self-sufficient. I think nowadays every company has their own self-sufficient design team where they can also align some potential work. Earlier, the BAU work, I would say the regular work used to be handled by it was a support function. The in-house design team used to be a support function. Slowly, it is changing. So now what is happening is the organization are trusting the design team to do their big gigs as well. Right.
Yeah. Plus, it's also I think when I started design and I started my career, there were not a lot of places. First of all, there were not a lot of brands like Lenskart, number one. And second of all, people did not used to have design team.
Yeah.
Like today, small mid-size fintech has like a team of 20 designers, which is great for design ecosystem. And now they have capital as well to pay like good amount of money to the designers. Definitely, I've seen that ship.
Yes, I think I was a part of that duration when this entire thing was happening. And today, as you mentioned, that every company has their own design team. At least they will start as a support function, but the vision is always to grow with them in a way that they can have more control and align all the big gigs with the in-house design team. Because in startup culture, you know how it happens that um, the brief requirement, the way that things work is very aggressive. Like the amount of changes that you get, or maybe I would put it in this way that the whole ecosystem works in a yesterday basis, right? So to go back and forth with any external agency becomes really very tough, and specifically when you are chasing big deadlines, doing something huge, and then you suddenly identify, okay, this is not something that I was expecting, and it's a surprise. So to cut down those surprises, to really become efficient, have more control, companies are shifting to have their own design skill set. And that is how I also like to operate. So I like to have more control so that I have visibility to what are the things which are happening for the brand. Given any uh, time, if there is a urgent change required, or any last minute thing is required, I don't want to really bother or maybe I would say working with the agency also makes me feel bad about doing it. That they have committed to something, but I'm constantly giving them some changes, and the relationship gets hammered a lot. So that's why I feel that if people have signed up to join me, then definitely they have signed up to live the brand, and then it's not a task based thing. And then you
Yeah.
day in day out you're doing your own.
Yeah, you gotta behave like a partner and add.
Yes, exactly. So then it's a partnership thing. So
Yeah.
then I'm a part of company's growth and not working as a project based.
Yeah. I think that's also the issue that I have found, like with companies little adamant about hiring agencies, because a lot of such thing has happened. Like bad experiences with agencies where they make it all about deliverables and not understand the brief. And again, that's what I also try to do to come out as a partner. So I forgot to ask, how much time did that rebranding take to unfold? Was it like couple of years? Because I was just thinking that because it's not just like a digital rebrand, and Lenskart has so many. I'm sure like thousands of stores also. Yes. So like making all of that stuff must be.
So when we got delivered the entire brand new system, then we slowly started first applying it to all the ongoing projects that we were doing that time, smaller projects. So, and Lenskart is an omni-channel brand, right? And we have packaging, we have store, we have online. So we are present and we are doing everything. To revamp that at that scale was really huge and very difficult, I would say. To revamp so many stores, so many collaterals, from a brochure level to a store level to a app level. It was a big task. It took a lot of time, I would say. It did not happen overnight. Once the brand system was in place, we did not immediately started going very aggressive on it. We started applying it on small areas. We did a lot of workshop with the in-house design team. We gave a lot of training session to the marketing team, other team who will now be a part of a new brand, right? So we started doing those exercises first. We started doing a lot of workshops, make people understand online workshop, physical workshop, and not just one. In every 3 months, we used to do this just to align everyone with now this is your lens card. We cannot afford to go back. So you need to understand this is what the new lens card is, and it is one lens card. All the brands would sit with this ecosystem. So it took about 1.5 years to convince people this is what we are. We started with digital collaterals first, all the collections and everything we started. So we defined a system which had, say, a grid which is inspired from our Lenskart logo. Then we had a lot of color combinations. We have actually crafted two fonts for us. So Lenskart Sans, Lenskart Serif. We had to embed that into the entire ecosystem right across from a smallest of visiting card to a store level or a UI level, right? So we started applying all those slowly. We started getting into the whole ecosystem with this new brand. So first we digitalized everything. Whatever new collections that we used to do, we used to superimpose those brand systems to those and get it out. After the point of time, people themselves started saying that, why are you not following this new brand system? This is not looking like the new brand. So people started understanding after a point of time. And then imagine so many stores across the globe. We had changed all the logo. It did not happen maybe in a year. It is still happening, I would say. In tier 3 city, tier 4 cities, it's still happening. But we are changing it. It is still ongoing. Uh, we did one huge exercise where we refreshed right after the rebranding. We took about 8-9 months and did one exercise where we refreshed the entire store creative. So it was a huge project. Every store creative we converted them into a new Lenskart system, and then we started applying, and other teams also helped a lot to scale up those things. It was not just my team. For example, the project team for stores, they took our guidelines, so we used to deliver a lot of kit. So from that kit, the respective team would then expand that into their own areas. So project team would do that on the store. The UI UX team would do that on the online platforms and stuff. So packaging we used to handle on our own. But yes, the scale was huge. So what as a team of 20, 25 professionals we used to do is we used to be the custodian. We used to say this is what it is and this is what everybody needs to follow. I am giving you 10 pieces. Now you make these 10 pieces into 100 pieces. That is what our role was at Lenskart. Initially, we to really expand this whole new system, it took about 1.5 year, 2 year to completely move and shift to this.
Sounds hectic and fun at the same time.
Yes, it was a great opportunity. Also for the people who joined me at the beginning of the journey, because it was an end-to-end process that they have seen. I think the kind of confidence that they have now um, would be a lot. Would be a lot because they have seen such a big global brand transforming from a design system to a new design system, and they have been a part of that journey. So for them also, the whole um, learning experience is a lot that cannot be taught or cannot be experienced when you don't be a part of it. You textbook learning and all that, those are something else. But this real time learning, when you have seen a journey from 0 to 100,
Yeah.
it's
It's
just
also very rare to kind of be a part of something.
very fortunate also,
Yeah.
I would say. As of what
I mean, once you are a part of an exercise like this, I think this it's like doing like an MBA of sorts.
yes, absolutely. Like you, there's so much of learning, and then I feel people in India, I still struggle to make them understand what is the value of doing brand systems
Yeah.
and following it.
And also, yeah, 100%. I think more brands should understand that. And also, in order to make it scalable, it takes time.
Yes,
It's for a lot of people think that it's a one-time thing, but it's a forever thing. Branding is a forever thing, right?
correct, 100%.
So, was it also the reason that you kind of shifted to a different domain, that you kind of was in a space where you were a part of the whole transformation, and how was that shift from shifting to like a consumer industry to
To a
fintech,
fintech. So I had
which is a recent shift for you?
yes. So I had about 4.5 years at Lenskart, right? And I joined Lenskart. As I mentioned, I was the only person as a design professional over there, and then I expanded myself into leading a team which was global and doing work for all across Lenskart, whatever which is related to communication, brand design, and everything. So I was leading everything there. And I had few vision after a year. I had set a few visions that I had to achieve. One is, of course, I want to diversify. I want to make sure that this team is responsible to do all sort of brand and communication design across the globe for Lenskart, which we achieved and with confidence, right? And it was the entire organization really um, backed us up because we were doing some great work, and including the founder Piyush too. So they saw the potential. So I got good backing in terms of building this whole team, getting new opportunities, and also expanding ourselves into the global. So earlier, the global marketing used to take care of their own design, but they saw enough confidence in us, and they saw the kind of work that we were doing. So imagine a team sitting in India are were not handling the work that was done outside India. But usually, you always find the central design team to be sitting in some part of the world, and India team is always supporting them, right?
Yeah.
And this was the other way around,
Yeah.
where
Very rare.
where we made sure, okay, this is your center of excellence, and any country who need to operate with design has to work with us, and we were the center of excellence. So it was the other way around. So that is something that I could achieve with the kind of talent that I had, and we nurtured. And then I had couple of milestones that I want to do these kind of project. I really want to feel like the best design team, in-house design team that any company could have. Somehow I felt that I've achieved all those few awards, where you are competing with big shot agencies who are day in day out doing creative work, right? Their bread and butter is that. But competing with them and winning awards, being a design house design team, I achieved that. And after a point of time, so even people who work, so we had many collaborations with WV. We did a lot of their collection, Lens Cardex, Harry Potter, Lens Cardex, Batman, and all those stuff. We got appreciated by a lot of global, uh, say, pioneers from there. And so I felt that I had done enough now. And I was doing a lot of these production also, 3D production and all that stuff. So then I felt, okay, I want to just zoom out a little again, and do exercise my strategic design skills again. And I thought, okay, 4 years of journey was enough. I have achieved what I wanted to accomplish at one agency, and now it is time to apply this again, and see if I can be successful in a different agency, different industry altogether. So yes, then Razorpay happened, and I saw Razorpay, the kind of company that they are, and I evaluated a lot that should I be making this shift. Then I got enough confidence after reading about them and understanding their ecosystem, design ecosystem. I was confident that it's a good place. Like they really value design, and uh, can be a place for me. So here I am. It has been 5 months. I think um, I want to again establish, apply my learning, whatever I had. I want to test it out. Basically, I want to challenge myself to again test out the learnings that I have, because I know that a lot of things that I can apply at Razorpay really will be beneficial for the organization, and I'm really looking forward to it. It has already started, um, and yeah, one thing different is there build a team from scratch. Here I already have a team who are really talented. So I'm very satisfied when I joined, and the team was there, and I really have enough confidence with them to take my journey from here ahead. And yeah, it was more to do with, say, I was satisfied with what I had done at Lenskart, and now it's it's the time is to again do and establish something new.
Yeah. What's a major difference from from a company that was selling like a physical product to say like a digital product company? Any major difference that you've
Yes,
noticed?
yes, definitely. It's a huge shift, I would say. See, and you have to make up your mind before you get into that shift. I always knew that, see, projecting a physical product in different ways, in different platform, um, it really excites you a lot. You then you become the forefront of the engine, right? You are what you are representing outside as a brand. Whereas here, it is a lot to do with running a business engine, supporting a lot of design initiative to support business grow, scale faster. Um, One thing that is definitely um, different and um, a huge difference from what I was doing earlier is that was visual delight that I was doing at Lenskart, also with strategic involvement. Over here, I want to systemize a lot of things, and things even before me, entire Razorpay started this whole initiative of going AI first, right? And I see a huge potential and a huge shift in that mindset. I myself had done a lot of AI project before at Lenskart also, but when I joined Razorpay, I could understand and really feel that notion and potential of how these guys are really feeling the whole innovative notion of AI first approach. And that is what really excites me. And um, everything that we are doing at Razorpay is with a mindset of AI first approach. Be it workflows, be it say smallest of the brainstorming to doing production, doing ads. The whole approach is how we can include AI into our ecosystem and our workflows. Um, and definitely scaling up faster and running the engine even more efficiently is something that I see is a huge difference from what I used to do at Lenskart. So making things more efficient, systemizing a way of things, include AI into your workflows. Um, so that is something we are focusing now here at Razorpay, and it's really fun. And the way that things are changing, evolving um, um, with the AI is mind blowing. I think that is something to keep up the pace is really important, and Razorpay is right on top of it. It is helping me a lot. This is my newest challenge, I think, and my new goal and vision, what I want to do from here on, what I want to do with my team, how I want to nurture the team. So this is what I'm looking forward to now.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that from close as well. Was fortunate enough to work with your team. Uh, I think the kind of stuff your team is doing is actually very future forward. And what I absolutely like about you folks is also how you are also like representing it on a global level,
Yes.
right? Um, for example, like a lot of people have been talking a lot about Cred and how they being a fintech company, they're still being very creative. And I think it's just it's brands like Cred, Razorpay who's setting the bar too high. Okay, so first I'm going to talk about this internal thing that you had that was only AI led. That was, I mean, I saw some stories out there, and I think it was an internal event. Other than that, there was this campaign with a lot of founders where who were your customers, and I think
Backing India's boldest.
exactly, and I think this campaign was got super popular around IPL as well. Tell us something about.
Got a lot of love. I think when I joined Razorpay, so it has been I think 5 months, and things has been like really busy. Started the journey, and suddenly like this whole campaign came into my way, and it was a great initiative and thought. I think a brainchild of our marketing folks, uh, Apur, Dushyant, Varun. So they came up with this idea. How about doing a campaign which would involve 50 founders, 100 founders. We'll go and shoot with them, and uh, in the IPL, when we project these ads, it will be one at a time, one founder at a time. If we get 100 slots, 100 founders, and these ads are not for us, how about like doing these ads for them? And I would say that is how Razorpay value is. So we are always supporting startup ecosystem, entrepreneurs, and businesses, right? And this is the DNA of Razorpay. So if you see this campaign, it's a absolute representation of that DNA. Backing people, backing the founders, backing India's boldest, backing people who people really seek inspirations from, being Indian, right? So the initiative was completely driven with that factor. So their idea was let's do all founder videos where we are not the protagonist. We are just backing them, and it will be a beautiful campaign to unfold. And these guys somehow reached out to so many founders, all great founders in India, and they agreed to sign up for this. And we did about 37 odd founders, where we shot in 2 to 3 different locations in India. And we started this whole project midway uh, IPL. Still, we could conclude so much and received so much love. I was like a lot of work. It was really aggressive. Like these people have pulled it off. The marketing folks were really like kudos to them. And then we parallelly started our whole branding exercise around this campaign. And the idea was to really be a voice to these founders, right? And the way that we do our communication, whatever we write, whatever we do, the idea was to make sure that we become their voice visually also. Also keeping in mind razor patience intact. So yes, we received a lot of love doing this whole campaign with big bold type and everything that would really voice out what they are saying. And the whole idea was revolving around their vision statement. Each founder would speak about their vision statement and really make um, people understand what they are doing in India. And that is what we hooked on to. And we wanted to make those statements as loud as clear. And that is whole. If you see the brand campaign, you will understand. You will really understand why we have done such type of design. The poses and all, we have identified, okay, we want to give all bold poses, all power shots of these founders and use across our creative so that it communicate that these are the founder, they look inspirational, inspiring enough, influential enough. So those were the strategic visual outlook that we were hooking ourselves into. And then on top of it, we layered it with a lot of AI. We did a lot of static to AI glam bots. We also started this whole initiative of, um, say, you would call it a movement where we did AI generated founder cards. So what happens with this is a founder would nominate another founder who he feels or she feels are doing great in their own world, and they can come to our platform. They just type in their name. They the AI crawls their vision statement from their website. They put it on the creative. They also select the archetype, like what kind of founder they are, visionary, hustler, or whatever it is, and then give a very nice on-brand visuals that we identified one visual style for the imagery, and then you will get a founder's card generated on our AI generator. And then this was spread across, and then it became like a movement, a chain function of, say, people nominating each other, people nominating founders, and the entire thing was celebrated on LinkedIn. So we received huge love. So it was a blend of, say, design strategy, design, and plus AI as a topping. And yes, when I spoke about what we are doing at Razor, we are just bringing everything AI to our workflow, and whatever that we do, it it is really adding up a lot.
I think before hopping on the podcast, I was thinking of the stuff that I'd like to talk to you. One of the things that uh, I was really curious about is the shift that has happened in, like, say, last decade, or especially post COVID. I think for the longest time, communication designers were, I mean, brands, people were not seeing a lot of value in them, and it was just one of those again design fields. And now I think it's one of the secret weapon that a lot of brand has, and considering it as like as a set of weaponry. And now communication design is coming out as like a strategic communication element. Wh- what has what has shifted from, like, say, like pre-COVID, post-COVID, or like in last 8-10 years?
I think absolutely right. And it's not a decade, I would say. It is very recent that communication design as a field or brand and communication design as a profession is also looked up to. Earlier, I would, it will be very, I would be very nervous to go up to my in laws and say that, okay, I'm a communication and brand and communication designer, right? I would definitely say, okay, I'm a product designer. people would understand and relate. But if I go and say, okay, I'm a brand and communication designer, they will always associate, okay, I have to do something with creative talent or maybe artistic skill set or something like that. So it was never so people don't relate what a communication designer potentially is doing. And it was the notion. It is still the notion. I would not say it is 100% eliminated. People still feel shy away from. Say, I had a like interestingly when I was leaving Lenscart, so I had asked a couple of my folks that because they used to they were fond of me, so they would work with Lenscart. A lot of it was to do with say my influence on their life and stuff. So I would ask people, okay, what do you want to do from here on in? And if I'm moving on, then what is that you want to choose as a career path or staying back with Lenscart? So what is that you identify as your goal? So a lot of people would say that I don't think so. There is a growth staying with the brand side. Um, I would like to shift to product. I don't know why. I don't know why because maybe there are very less example of people who have done their 10 communication design skill and then there are very less people to look up to. Okay, their professional graph and career graph in this side of design.
Yeah. Yeah. Interestingly, I've actually been seeing it a lot as well. A lot of people who are, a lot of young folks, like there are a bunch of people in my team. Even so, monthly I get like around 20 to 30 portfolios, either for internships or jobs. I've seen like I've been seeing this pattern where someone who has like great communication skills, and that's seen, right? You can have it, look at the portfolio and get an idea that they're really good with that, but they still want to pursue product. Maybe it's a high paying job or it's a supply demand thing.
100%.
What do you think about that? I think so, and I don't blame them because I genuinely feel that people are still like brands are still not showing enough value to
Yeah, I think
communication design as a subject.
yes. Now I think it will change slowly with the whole AI thing and communication designer being more than just communication designer or maybe skill based communication designer. So they are also creating workflows. We can come to that later. But to address this, yes, I face this a lot with people. I had to convince a lot of people. Why are you doing this? You have a great talent sitting with you in brand and communication. Why do you want not to leverage that and try it out? You have it in you. I think it is because say around from 2020 2015 to 2020 or 2021, the entire shift in the industry also, like how you started getting all digital first, e-commerce, a lot of e-commerce companies started showing up. There was a huge demand uh, and supply of product designers. A lot of, I would say, a lot of engineers started getting into this zone. So that instinctively would connect you to realize, okay, the designers are doing UX, product design. Engineers are also doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So you somehow categorize this to have a upper hand. Uh, you feel that is more secured. Um, you think a little highly about it than communication and brand design because you start looking around and maybe engineering a person is joining a firm as a UI UX designer. So you tend to identify yourself maybe as a value add to organization, like how other people are doing and other professions are doing. And due to this whole shift in industry, mobile first, digital first, people started doing a lot product design and a lot of designer supply started happening over there, and it became a thing. Whereas communication design is yet to hit that spot. So I think it will happen. It will happen very soon. And I think today's communication designer are really a growth function to your ecosystem. It's not just that you deliver a brief and they'll
Yeah.
just do it. They they are supposed to be, and wherever there is an opportunity, all the communication designers should feel that they should be a part of their growth journey, I would say, of a brand,
Yeah.
and not just being an agency. If the mindset is applied, I think a lot of organization and companies would start realizing it. Like how we, when I was in Lenskart, we were always identified as one of the rockstar team because of the kind of work that we used to do. At Razorpay also, the design lens is applied. People feel that we care. So when a communication design team is performing well for the brand, the customer would eventually feel that you care for them. And it is not agency work that you're doing. You're really interacting with the consumers
Yeah.
as a communication design team. Whatever you're doing day to day, influencing your brand to be a part of consumers' life. Um, and that shift has to happen, and it will happen. Um, I think more and more confidence the organization will start showing building in-house design teams like how it has started happening. It will happen eventually after a 5 years of time. People would have product design and communication design neck to neck as a business say value add.
Yeah, because I think it's not it's literally the communication that you do, right? And put your word out there. It's product communication, it's brand communication, it's marketing communication. Um, so I think it's inevitable to not give or like build like a design team that communicates well. Like, what do you see this whole communication advertising space moving ahead, especially for in-house teams, since there's a lot of AI? And do you think that agencies like ours gonna make sense in the future? What do you think? Where is this heading? Because I think on this side of the world, I've been fortunate enough to work with like really amazing folks building million-dollar brands. This suddenly a lot of confusion between what to do, how much AI to do you to
Right.
use, and stuff like that. I mean, every other week there's something new coming up. How do you think? And I think at this point in just last 2 years, it has been kind of normalized. What do you think? Where it's heading? How it's gonna take shape?
See, I think of course the pace is really very fast. First of all, today you are doing something, and it's a fact, right? Maybe a Friday I have done a work on maybe having a AI avatar of someone doing talking about onboarding. Right, I've clicked someone and I get them to speak something else and do AI avatar of them. Monday I come and I see someone doing better. Why? Because a version upgrade has been done, right? And the person who's doing that and the person who has done something else, the result is better, the effort is less, but it is just a matter of 2 days, right? That is how fast things are evolving. And that is the challenge that everybody in this design fraternity is experiencing, right? And scared of. But I feel it is nothing to be scared of. Everybody has to evolve. And it's not in-house design versus agencies. Everybody has to evolve. Everybody have their own place and space to grow. Be it the in-house people, be it individuals, be it skill-based individuals or agencies who are already doing great work. So how do you consider this to be like, say, it's your camera, right? Everybody has a phone and camera nowadays, but everybody cannot be a photographer, right? Become a photographer, you have to know your fundamentals, your basics, and you have to be that creative person, right? So it is the same. So everybody has AI to have a shot at it. But the people who has good fundamental knowledge about what to do with it would really matter a lot. And with this, everybody has a great chance to evolve, to do great stuff. I would say in-house agencies, in-house design teams are growing and it will grow big. One, that of course in-house design agency saves a lot of cost that goes out to external agencies. So that's one of the things, one of the factor that people account for it. And my role is also to look after that, right? Because ultimately I'm working for a firm and I have to optimize a lot of things. Be it the cost that we are spending on design, can we do it in house? Can we do it through AI? Can we do it through this and that? Just to optimize the business outcome. So one is that having in-house team saves a lot of cost, which goes outside. Second thing, you have more control, more people that are working for the brand and living the brand. And with AI, definitely, to be very honest, you can optimize a lot of things. You don't need a camera, you don't need equipments, you don't need to do professionals to shoot anymore. You can optimize at a lot of areas. You can automate a lot of things. You can um, do, say, structurize a lot of things. You can build workflows which requires less human intervention. And also, at times, you can figure out ways to downsize the team also. Um, and if I'm downsizing the team, eventually it means also that I also don't have to outsource, right? So with AI, definitely a lot of optimization is happening. The efficiency is rising high. Um, Today, I can do multi-million dollar production with no cost involved. Um, and these are the facts which are there with everyone. So how about knowing that and doing something, right? Instead of thinking that, okay, it is taking over. It is taking over. At the same time, it is also giving you a lot of advantage and helping you to think, okay, even I can involve, right? So that is how things are happening. I think in-house design teams will become the thing. And if you really leverage AI the way um, that that would help the organization scale up faster, maybe bring your efficiency 10x, that's a win. And that is what every organization will look up to. It's not just the design, I would say, the tech also, and in every other area. If you apply AI and get your efficiency higher, be it product, tech, or any other domain, that is the ultimate objective every organization would be looking forward to. And agency side also, now you don't need so many people or maybe professional equipment to do things. If you have the right vision, creative mindset, strategic thinking, I think agency side also can deliver so much. It's just that you have to showcase your the possibility and your strength, and yeah, everybody has a scope to win.
Yeah. Uh, that takes us to the end of the podcast, and I would like to end this conversation with asking you about maybe like top three things. If a startup is probably listening to this podcast and building a brand, what are the maybe top two three? Because I think we whatever we talked about today is like for like a huge, like a really high level brands, and like where lakhs and lakhs of customers are involved. What do you think are the top three things that brands should be doing to communicate well out there? Since this has never been the better time to have a startup or to start a brand.
Yeah, I think the startup already has advantage because it is very difficult to bring back a company who has grown so much to a sensibility. Okay, this is your brand now, because they have already made a brand. They have already gone so far that it is really very difficult for them to pull back and say, yeah, this is what your brand is. So for startup, it is really easy. You are yet to start. You are yet to take that ramp. So establish yourself right is very important. Um, and for all the startup, I would say that first of all, you need to really live and breathe your brand and really consider design to be a part of your growth plan. If you don't consider design to be a part of your growth plan, later on you will go and realize it. So earlier the better. The whole design thinking, brand thinking, communication thinking is something that you should develop from the beginning of your startup and journey, rather than realizing later. Um, and give value to it. It takes time to understand and realize the potential of it. But all the startup people should understand the value of it. Don't think it just as a formality that we need to have a brand and we need to have a logo. We need to just be out there. It is not being out there. It is being out there and really stand tall for your brand and believe in what you are doing. Um, and so and designers and design thinkers will always help you do that. And with this whole shift in AI, definitely you don't have to start that big. Now you don't have to start a lot of value with a lot of value. So the financials are small now. We can hire good thinkers and get started with them. You don't need big house production and stuff that any multi-million dollar company can do, but you can also do it now. Now, though, I would say the whole value involved into the system is you can optimize that. We just need some great thinkers and get started your brand in a right way. Earlier, you might be thinking, see, startup from the earlier time before AI, they would invest their capital in areas that really matters to them, and that's why maybe at times design would take a back seat. But now you don't have to worry about it, because even if you spend a little, but to the right person who has good thinking ability and can do a lot to your brand, you don't have to worry because the investment is pretty small with AI. So you can really enable one or two guy to do a lot for your brand, and that maybe big companies are also doing. So yes, it's an advantage. So get your design early into the journey. That will really set you up.
Yeah, that's a really lovely insight. Thanks a lot for taking us through your journey. Sorry, and really looking forward to what's there to come with your new journey.
Thanks a lot, Deepak. This was really fun. I think I also unlocked a lot of things that I have never spoken about. And then I realized, okay, I have done quite a lot in the past. So, yes, it was really fun.
Yeah, have a good one.
Thank you. Thank you, Deepak.